شرفهم. نخليهم معك. Maybe it's here. Yeah, the first thing. Yeah. It's full there. Very good. In the back.
البروتوكول مع فلسطين تقول له ينزل تحت، ما عنده مكان هون ورا الرؤساء.
قال الواحد لازم يكون معاه، كان هو راجل كبير ما بيقدر يمشي الاخوان. May I kindly request again, all of you, excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, we are about to start the opening ceremony, and I humbly request all of you to take your seats so that you allow us to start the opening ceremony, please. And especially, dear friends here in front of the podium, please, all of you behind.
One egg of state you forgot this.
Okay.
Your Excellency President Mahmoud al-Sheikh al-Azwan, President of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania and Chairperson of African Union, Your Excellency Dr. Abiy Ahmed, Prime Minister of Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, and host of the 38th Excellency Mr. Musa Faki Mahamat, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Your Excellency Mohamed Abbas, President of the State of Palestine, Your Excellency Mr. Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations, Your Excellency Honorable Mia Montri, Prime Minister of Barbados and Chairperson of the Caribbean Community, Your Excellency Dr. Adesina Akinomi, President of the African Development Bank, Excellencies, First Ladies, Honorable Ministers here present, Your Excellency Dr. Monique Sazabagana, Deputy Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Your Excellencies Commissioners of the African Union Commission, Your Excellency Abda Hassam Jacob Aziz, Deputy Secretary General of the League of Arab States, Your Excellencies Ambassadors here present, Heads of African Union organs and regional economic communities and mechanisms. I also recognize the presence of our partners, members of the diplomatic corps, members of the press, and all distinguished delegates. All protocols observed. May I now kindly call the Excellency Chairperson of African Union to call this meeting to order. Your Excellency, you have the floor. Thank you.
Excellence, Dr. Abiy Ahmed, Premier ministre de la République démocratique d'Éthiopie, notre hôte, honorable chef d'État et de gouvernement, et chers collègues, Excellence Moussa Faki Mohamed, président de la Commission de l'Union africaine, je souhaite une chaleureuse bienvenue à tous les chefs d'État et de gouvernement et les hauts représentants des États membres et à nos distingués invités. Je voudrais aussi exprimer notre appréciation pour votre présence. Je suis heureux de déclarer ouverts les travaux de la 38e session ordinaire de la conférence de l'Union africaine. Et pour commencer, mesdames et messieurs, je vous invite à vous lever pour observer une minute de silence à la suite de la disparition d'un grand combattant pour la liberté, Monsieur Samu Nujoma, père fondateur de la Namibie. Donc je vous remercie. Merci. Je souhaite maintenant inviter le protocole de la Commission à nous décliner le déroulement de la cérémonie d'ouverture.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, may I humbly call all of you to rise for the African Union Anthem. Thank you. Your Excellency Mohammed Wild Sheikh Al Ghazwani, President of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania, and Chairperson of the African Union, Your Excellency Dr. Abiy Ahmed, Prime Minister of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, Your Excellencies, Heads of States and Governments of African Union Member States, Your Excellency Musa Faki Mohammed, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Your Excellency Mr. Mahmoud Abbas Abu Mazin, President of the State of Palestine, Your Excellency Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations, Your Excellency Maya Moore Motley, Prime Minister of Barbados, Your Excellencies, distinguished former presidents here present, Honorable First Ladies here present, Your Excellencies, Honorable African Union Commission, Excellencies, Commissioners, and all the leadership of the Commission, Excellencies, Ambassadors, members of the Permanent Representatives Committee, Your Excellency Mina Wamakela, Secretary General of the African Continental Free Trade Area, AFCFTA, Your Excellency Madame Nardos Bekele Thomas, Chief Executive Officer of the African Union Development Agency, AUDA-NIPAD, Your Excellency Dr. Jan Kaseya, Director General of the Africa CDC, Your Excellency Ambassador Marie-Antoinette Roscatre, Chief Executive Officer of the African Peer Review Mechanism, APRM, Your Excellency Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, Minister of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs of the Republic of South Africa, former Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Your Excellencies, Heads of United Nations specialized agencies and international organizations here present, سعادة نائب الأمين العام لجامعة الدول العربية ممثل الأمين العام، Your Excellency Luis Moshikiu Abo, Secretary General of the International Organization of La Francophonie, Your Excellency Dr. Workena Yibihu, Executive Secretary of the Intergovernmental Authority on Development, IGAD, Your Excellencies, Heads of COMISA, ECOWAS, SINSAT, EAC, ECAS, SADC, and UMMA, Your Excellency Dr. Akinwumi Adesina, President of the African Development Bank Group, a strong believer of the African development and prosperity, Your Excellencies Dr. Benedict Oki Orama, President of the Afri-Exim Bank, Your Excellency Dr. Sidi Wildeta, President of the Arab Bank for Economic Development in Africa, BADIA, معالي الشيخ شخبوط نهيان آل نهيان، وزير الدولة بدولة الإمارات العربية المتحدة، Excellencies, Permanent Observer Representatives to the African Union, and Excellencies, representatives of our partners to the African Union, all protocol observed, members of the press, a very good morning to you all. It gives me immense honor and pleasure to welcome you all to the opening ceremony of the 38th Ordinary Session of the AU Assembly of Heads of States and Governments, being held today at the Nelson Mandela Hall, the African Union headquarters in Addis Ababa, the capital of Africa. Addis Ababa, a vibrant city that has been at the heart of the Pan-African diplomacy and multilateralism, stands as a symbol of Africa's unity and progress. As a host nation of the African Union, Ethiopia plays a crucial role in fostering continental dialogue and advancing African integration. Your Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, the 38th ordinary session of the Assembly of Heads of States and Governments of the African Union holds significant importance as it will oversee the elections of the chairperson and the deputy chairperson of the African Union Commission. Over the past years, the African Union has made remarkable progress in conflict resolution, mediation, and peacekeeping efforts, contributing to greater stability across the continent. Economic transformation has been further strengthened through the African Continental Free Trade Area and accession to the G20, contributing towards the implementation of Agenda 2063, the Africa we want. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, having said so, the program of today's opening ceremony will stand as follows. We will have a statement by His Excellency Dr. Abiy Ahmed, Prime Minister of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, followed by a statement by His Excellency Musa Faki Mohammed, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, following which a statement by His Excellency Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations. We shall then have a statement by His Excellency Mahmoud Abbas, President of the State of Palestine. Then His Excellency Mahmoud will Sheikh Al-Ghazwani, President of the Islamic Republic of Mauritania and Chairperson of the African Union, will make his opening remarks. Immediately after that, we will call the Dean of African Ambassadors in Ethiopia to introduce the new Bureau, members of the African Union Assembly, following which we shall have the handover ceremony African Union. Then we will go to the launch of the African Union through reparations. Without any further invite His Excellency Dr. Abiy Ahmed, Prime Minister of the Federal Democratic Republic of Ethiopia, to deliver his statement. Your Excellency, the floor is yours. Your Excellency.
Your Excellency, President Mohammed Ould, outgoing Chairperson of the African Union, Your Excellencies, Heads of State and Government, Your Excellency Musa Faki Mohammed, outgoing Chairperson of the African Union Commission, Your Excellency Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations, distinguished ministers, ambassadors, diplomats, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Ethiopia, the cradle of Pan-Africanism and a proud champion of African unity and freedom. It is an honor to stand before you today as we reflect on the immense potential we hold, not just as individual nations, but as a united and dynamic continent. In a world marked by rapid change and multiple challenges, we find ourselves at a crossroads of uncertainty and opportunity. This moment calls upon us to strengthen our collective resolve, embrace resilience, and foster unity across Africa. The theme for this year's Assembly calls on us to heal the scars of historical injustice and overcome lingering trauma that has long hindered our progress. The demand for reparations is not about charity or financial aid. It is a call for justice. It seeks to restore the dignity of millions and heal the deep scars of poverty, inequality, and discrimination. It demands an end to the systematic exploitation of our wealth, resources, and opportunities. It also calls for a transformative process that acknowledges past harms, and takes bold steps to right the wrongs caused upon us, upon society across the continent. Thank you. Thank you. Most importantly, the call for reparations requires not just words, but concrete actions to affirm the equal, lasting peace, justice, and prosperity. We must rise above the geopolitical tensions and among all of our nations and embracing a shared destiny. We can pool our resources and talents to unlock our continent's full potential. Africa's cultural, ethnic, and linguistic diversity is a source of pride and strength upon which we must build inclusive governance and equitable development. Conflict resolution, diplomacy, and peace building must remain at the heart of our efforts. By championing African solutions to African challenges, we can secure lasting peace and stability. Let us celebrate our achievements in politics, science, economics, and arts. Strategic initiatives such as the African Continental Free Trade Area give us the tools to boost intra-Africa trade, reduce external dependency, and achieve self-reliance. With Africa's large and dynamic use, abundant natural resources, and growing technological innovations, we have all the means to ensure sustainable growth. The rapid advancement of artificial intelligence, particularly generative AI, offers unprecedented opportunities to transform our economies and societies. By collaborating in AI, fintech, renewable energy, and mobile technology, we can address shared challenges such as climate change, infrastructure gaps, and public health crisis. Africa's rich and diverse data sets are essential for training robust and inclusive AI models. This highlights the importance of African representation in shaping future technologies. However, as we embrace these advancements, it's essential to protect our data sovereignty, prevent digital exploitation, and develop homegrown AI solutions that reflect African values and contexts. As our data sets grow, so must our capacity to harness them for local and global good. When used responsibly, AI can be a powerful tool in conflict prevention, transparent governance, and inclusive development. Africa must actively participate in the global technology race to ensure we are competitive players in the evolving digital landscape, while also ensuring we benefit equitably from this technological revolution. Furthermore, Africa's voice on global issues must grow stronger, ensuring that we have a say in shaping governance frameworks and other much-needed reforms in the global order. By empowering grassroots movements, youth networks, and educational programs focused on digital literacy and technological innovation, we can inspire the next generation. This will ensure Africa stands not just as a beneficiary of a global advancement, but as a key contributor in shaping the future of humanity. Excellencies, the opportunities before us are immense. Ethiopia is determined to prosper, guided by a vision of vibrant democracy, sustainable economic growth, rich cultural heritage, social progress, and a deep commitment to environmental regeneration. To realize this goal, we have laid out a pragmatic roadmap rooted in the transformative principles of Maddamar. Maddamar, an Amharic term loosely translated as synergy, is our guiding philosophy. It is a homegrown ideology that promotes prosperity, unity, sovereignty, security, and national dignity. At its core, Maddamar encourages social and economic advancement, celebrates diversity, and nurtures a spirit of community grounded in Ethiopia's rich culture, spirituality, and values. Reflecting on the progress of the past 5 years and building on the vision of Maddamar, Ethiopia has made remarkable strides. Despite inheriting a nation deeply divided along ethnic lines, burdened by substantial debt, and facing numerous internal challenges, we have moved forward with determination. At the same time, we navigated a complex and ever-changing regional and international landscape. Yet, through resilience and cooperation, we continue to move closer to the realization of our shared vision of prosperity. Our achievements speak for themselves. Allow me to share a few highlights. We have reformed our political system, transforming into an inclusive multi-party framework that reflects the diversity of our nation. To deepen these reforms and foster cohesion, reconciliation, and peace, we are undertaking a national dialogue. On the economic front, we have built a resilient and diverse economy. Over the past 5 years, we have doubled our cultivated land, increasing crop production to nearly 700 million quintals, with the wheat accounting for 40% of this total. These efforts have strengthened food security and driven rural development. Today, Ethiopia is a producer in Africa. Thank you. Through collective efforts, we have reduced external debt by over 50%, double both GDP and GDP per capita. And our major cities are evolving into dynamic, culturally rich, and sustainable hubs. In education, we have established 40,000 kindergartens and primary schools to boost early childhood education. Additionally, we have launched a program to train 5 million coders to strengthen our digital economy. Furthermore, we strive to honor our heritage by restoring national sites, developing tourist destinations, and reclaiming cultural artifacts, fulfilling our duty as the guardians of our nation's treasures. These accomplishments reflect the unwavering spirit and resilience of the Ethiopian people and underscore our firm commitment to advancing Ethiopia's future. With its focus on unity, cooperation, innovation, and shared progress, Maddamar can serve as a guiding framework for our Pan-African agenda. By embracing its principles, we can forge a path toward a more just, equitable, and prosperous future for all Africans. Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, let us march forward with determination. harnessing the limitless potential of our continent and its people. The time is now to claim our future, build a legacy of equality and prosperity, and secure dignity for all. Let us be the generation that unites the continent and our diaspora in a shared vision of justice, prosperity, and peace. To conclude, I thank our outgoing chairperson, President Mohammed Ould, for his leadership and representing our organization on the global stage. Allow me to also warmly congratulate our newly chairperson, President Joao Lorenzo, and wish him success during his tenure. I would also like to take a moment to express my heartfelt gratitude to His Excellency Musa Faki Mahamat for his exemplary leadership as chairperson of the African Union Commission over the past 8 years. Throughout his tenure, His Excellency Musa Faki has shown unwavering commitment to Africa's development, peace, and integration, significantly strengthening the African Union's role in addressing the continent's challenge. I also extend my sincere thanks to him for being a steadfast friend of Ethiopia, supporting us not only during our times of success, but also in our moments of difficulty. Thank you, my brother. Farewell to His Excellency Musa Faki. It is with great pleasure that I extend a warm welcome. I am confident that under his leadership, we will continue to make great strides toward achieving our collective goals. I wish him every success during his mandate. Thank you for your attention, and I wish us all a fruitful summit. God bless Ethiopia. God bless Africa. I thank you.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for your statement, and thank you for the generous hospitality extended to our Excellencies, heads of states and governments, as well as distinguished delegates. Thank you. And now allow me to invite with great honor and pleasure His Excellency Musa Faki Mahamat, Chairperson of the African Union Commission, to deliver his statement. Your Excellency.
Excellences, Monsieur Mohamed Ould Cheikh Al-Ghazouani, Président de la République islamique de Mauritanie, Président en exercice de l'Union africaine, Excellence Dr Abiy Ahmed, Premier ministre de la République d'Éthiopie, Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs les chefs d'État, de gouvernement et de délégation, Excellences, Monsieur Mahmoud Abbas, Président de l'État de Palestine, ma très chère sœur amie Mia, Premier ministre de Barbados, Excellence Monsieur Antonio Guterres, Secrétaire général des Nations Unies, Mesdames et Messieurs les ministres, Dr Nkosazana Zuma, ancienne présidente de la Commission de l'Union africaine, Madame la vice-présidente, Mesdames et Messieurs les commissaires, Mesdames et Messieurs les secrétaires généraux et exécutifs des communautés économiques régionales et mécanismes régionaux, Mesdames et Messieurs les chefs exécutifs des organes et institutions spécialisées de l'Union africaine, Mesdames et Messieurs les chefs des missions diplomatiques, distingués invités, Mesdames et Messieurs. C'est à la fois avec un grand honneur et un immense plaisir que je m'adresse à vous aujourd'hui pour la dernière fois en ma qualité de président de la Commission de l'Union africaine. Je voudrais tout d'abord, puisque nous sommes encore au début de l'année nouvelle 2025, présenter à vos excellences, vos familles et vos peuples, au nom de tous les personnels de l'Union africaine, mes meilleurs vœux de santé, de prospérité et de succès. Je voudrais aussi exprimer mes sincères remerciements aux présidents en exercice avec lesquels j'ai successivement travaillé ces 8 dernières années. J'ai nommé dans l'ordre de leur présidence Alpha Condé, Paul Kagame, Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, Cyril Ramaphosa, Antoine Félix Tshisekedi, Macky Sall, Azali Assoumani et Mohamed Ould-Cheikh Al-Ghazouani. En cet instant de remembrance, je ne peux oublier le président Idriss Déby Itnou, paix à son âme, qui, en africaniste convaincu, a eu l'initiative de ma candidature à la tête de la commission et qui s'est investi sans compter pour un tel destin pour moi. Sa mort tragique a été ma plus atroce douleur de ce double mandat. Excellences, Mesdames, Messieurs, 8 ans se sont écoulés depuis mon élection fin janvier 2017 comme président de la Commission de l'Union africaine. En ces moments chargés d'historicité, de signification et de symboles, je voudrais m'acquitter du devoir moral de vous présenter les grandes lignes du bilan de ce double mandat. Grâce à ces parcours, je me suis profondément imprégné à la fois de ce qui fait la grandeur et le rayonnement de notre continent, de notre organisation continentale, ainsi que des pesanteurs et limites diverses ayant entraîné le rythme de nos cadences. J'ai sillonné ce beau et fantastique continent. J'éprouve une profonde fierté d'avoir visité au moins une fois tous les 55 membres de notre Union. L'opportunité que m'offre ce moment est historique et unique. J'y tenterai de m'acquitter de la double obligation de rendre compte et de m'interroger sur quelques problématiques en ayant bien conscience qu'il ne faut absolument pas abuser de votre temps si précieux. Un rapport consolidé de notre bilan et un rapport annuel vous ont été distribués conformément à notre réglementation. Monsieur le Président, Excellences, Mesdames et Messieurs, les rapides et intenses bouleversements géopolitiques qui ont caractérisé le contexte international durant mes 2 mandats ont eu des manifestations à la fois violentes et déstabilisatrices. La subite dégradation de la situation sanitaire consécutive au déclenchement de la Covid-19 s'est accompagnée malheureusement d'importants chocs et de profondes turbulences économiques et diplomatiques. Pour l'Afrique, cela s'est traduit par une aggravation du poids de la dette, de la baisse des flux d'investissement publics et privés, de la violence et de la prégnance de certains conflits africains, de l'affaissement du panafricanisme et des chaînes de solidarité africaines, des manifestations d'obsolescence des institutions africaines, des appétits extérieurs en Afrique, des déficiences patentes en matière de gouvernance et de leadership en Afrique et même dans le monde, de la crise du multilatéralisme post-Seconde Guerre mondiale, etc., etc. La guerre russo-ukrainienne, enclenchée en février 2022, est venue noircir davantage ces tableaux, annonçant une recomposition géopolitique mondiale. Est née une ligne de fracture qui a suscité une forme de bipolarité qui, dans les imaginaires politiques, évoque la réalité pourtant théoriquement dépassée de la guerre froide. Des incertitudes profondes sur la soutenabilité de la paix et de la coopération internationale ont empoisonné les esprits, assombri les consciences et ont renforcé le pessimisme, les égoïsmes et le pragmatisme mercantile. Les conséquences de cette guerre ont profondément affecté l'Afrique, qui importait l'essentiel de sa consommation céréalière et ses intrants agricoles de ces 2 pays la Russie et l'Ukraine. Le spectre de l'insécurité alimentaire et sanitaire a plané sur bien de nos pays, dont un bon nombre continue de souffrir de leur fragilité structurelle. أصحاب الفخامة والمعالي السادة سيداتي وسادتي، وفي الشرق الأوسط فإن الشعب الفلسطيني الشقيق عانى ويعاني أبشع أنواع الظلم في التاريخ البشري. إن الحرب الفظيعة والجائرة التي دمرت كل شيء في فلسطين وخاصة
Gaza to deprive this people of its fundamental rights to independence, peace, existence, and to life in an indescribable shame for the whole of mankind. In spite of all this, these valiant Palestinian people remained stoic, and the African Union remained firmly by the side of the Palestinian people. I want to express to our brother Abu Mazin Mahmoud Ramadan our solidarity. This apocalyptic landscape, the Gaza Strip, and its population, in particularly after more than a year of war, destroying all forms of life and property, continues to unfold in almost total silence of the powers of the world, except for the call by some for the systematic deportation. This unprecedented tragedy weighs heavily despite the ceasefire and the release of hostages and prisoners facilitated by Qatar, Egypt and the USA on the universal conscience and deeply questions our humanity. The stronghold of increased, stifling, dehumanized globalization does not leave Africa outside the hegemonic struggles that are taking place far from its land. On the contrary, the continent is suffering from the excesses and fragmentations reflected in proximity conflicts, barely veiled support from external powers from the warring parties on the continent, the expansion of terrorism and violent extremism, the continuation of the devastating war in the Sudan, in Eastern Democratic Republic of the Congo, the divisions of Libya, whose reconciliation charter was signed and adopted yesterday, and I would like to congratulate you, President Sassou Nguesso. Tensions of all kinds in the Sahel, in the Lake Chad Basin, in the Gulf of Guinea, in Mozambique, in the Horn of Africa and the Great Lakes region are another part of the unsmoldering string of African crises. The flow of political, economic, environmental refugees and other internally displaced persons is exacerbating the already fragile security, food and health situation in many member states. It is this seriously degraded global and regional context that we have been facing over the past 8 years of the development of our action. Excellency, Mr. Chairman, Excellencies, Heads of State and Government, ladies and gentlemen, the institutional reform of our Union, which began in 2017, aimed at establishing the optimal condition to guarantee the efficient pursuit of the programs included in our strategic doctrinal guiding compass Agenda 2063 for the purpose of better resistance to the challenges that were identified. In this regard, the reconfiguration of the leadership, a staff performance evaluation process, closer cooperative relationship between the African Union and the regional economic communities and the regional mechanisms enacted by a new protocol, the institutionalization of a coordination summit dedicated to integration, the establishment of the technical groups R10 and N15, responsible to ensuring the quality of human resources recruited and compliance with the golden rules of budgetary, financial and accounting management principles of the African Union have been the salient features of this reform. And but is without any complacency, we'll have a new institutional map of the Union. I'm here stressing three of these organs: the Pan-African Parliament, the Peace and Security Council, and the Permanent Representatives Committee. The overall movement of the reform, with its shadows and lights, confirms its relevance and its necessary progressive nature to be deployed over the long term. It is a requirement for the perpetual adaptation of the structures of our union to the developments that characterize the world. I would like to thank Presidents Paul Kagame and President William Ruto for their remarkable efforts to move this reform forward. Mr. Chairman, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, an assessment of the first 10-year implementation plan of Agenda 2063, covering the period 2014 to 2023, reveals the sectoral progress made in our march towards building the Africa that we want. It is crucial to learn the real lesson and make the appropriate subsequent adjustments. In the field of health, it is a holistic approach translated on the ground into actions crowned with success. With the outbreak of the COVID-19 pandemic, Africa CDC established itself as the most effective instrument in the fight of all diseases. The worrying issue of health financing continues to be a source of concern for us. Two mechanisms for financing universal health coverage and combating malnutrition on the continent have been designed. Thanks to the African Veterinary Vaccine Center, PANVAC, whose new vaccine production laboratory was inaugurated in February 2024, significant progress has been made in the areas of livestock, animal health, and socio-economic development. The African Medicines Agency, AMA, has begun setting up its headquarters in Kigali and its activities on the launching pad. The traditional medicine has benefited from the development of two 10-year plans of action, the last one running from 2025 to 2035. The field of education has been driven by the desire to design a new educational system according to the requirements of a world where the major challenge has now become competition around scientific and technological innovation, and now by artificial intelligence. It is in line with this spirit that diverse and complementary strategies have been developed, notably during the Nouakchott conference in 2024, initiated by the current chairman, Mauritania, in cooperation with the African Union Commission and other partners, including UNICEF and UNESCO in particular. The centrality of gender and youth issues have been affirmed. The special envoys for women and youth have established themselves well in the institutional universe of the leadership of the organization. Throughout the 8 years of these two terms, many other crucial areas engaged the attention they deserved due to their importance for the socio-economic development of Africa. Whether it is our vision on mining issues, the comprehensive agriculture program and the blue economy, the development of infrastructure and energy, climate change with adaptation and climate resilience of the continent, regional integration through the implementation of the African Continental Free Trade Area, the effective operationalization of the Peace Fund, which has exceeded the set target of $400 million, the treatment of humanitarian crisis of which Africa is the epicenter, with the establishment of the African Humanitarian Agency, the strengthening of the visibility of the African Union through our partnership with the United Nations, all have been at the center of our collective endeavor. I would like to seize this opportunity to pay special tribute to a major architect of this partnership. I'm here referring to Antonio Guterres, a great friend of Africa. Thank you, Antonio. The membership of the African Union, the G20, and the BRICS, of which several African countries are members, have crowned this visibility. On all these issues, the specialized structure of the African Union and the member states have carried out in-depth discussions and outlined clear prospects for some and given concrete form to many others. Mr. Chairman, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, a few months ago I sent to Your Excellencies a letter relating to some urgent issues at the heart of the future of our Union and its capacity to attain as best as possible our objectives. I am here thinking first of the Peace and Security Council, which I mentioned earlier on, and its role should be carried out on the basis of texts that govern its function, its operation, from which it draws the strength and legitimacy to design, supervise the pressing issues of our collective security and impose, if necessary, the required sanctions. It is very regrettable that its decisions are sometimes contrary to our own principles, and when they are not, often remain dead letters. The decision of this central continental organ cannot be considered in a casual manner, nor by bias the concept and practice of these regional economic communities in the name of the hackneyed principle of subsidiarity interpreted in a self-interest and partisan manner. The mentioning of the PSC brings forth the issue of unconstitutional changes of government. In this regard, I mention in the said letter that we have only two options henceforth: either abandon the principles that currently govern this issue or apply them seriously, notwithstanding the fact that we can revise them, adapt them to the new realities. I think for our own credibility, we should continue to establish these principles like a litany while trampling on them and accepting their flagrant and constant violation. There is nothing that eats more into our credibility than such an attitude, which has recently led to a real distrust in the rules and principles and weakened the integration in part of the continent. I am here mentioning the persistent and paralyzing slump of our unbearable division in terms of representation in relation to our so-called strategic partnerships. I drew attention, and I draw again attention here, to choose one of the two options that are presented to us and which I presented in clear terms in my letter. I had also mentioned the recurring issue of the financing of our organization, which paradoxically contrasts with the continuing trends of multiplication of organs without any concern for how to finance them. An independent organization and guardian of our freedom and sovereignty cannot be built with the finances and resources by others. I had also raised the depriving reduction of the initiatives of the chairperson of the African Union Commission and called for its harmonization with the legal and customary obligations that are now imposed on him. In short, the sense of my correspondence is very simple and maybe brutal. It is the question of placing our organization worthily or not before a terrible combination of factors of complexity. These are all the problems that you are facing today that I wanted to raise very modestly in my letter. Are we finally going to open our eyes to the fate of our organization, or are we continue to let it lament and moan? Excellency Mr. Chairman, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, it is a commonplace truth today to affirm that the concepts and legal instruments serving as a framework of analyzing the dynamics of contemporary international politics are outdated. They have lost their both structuring and explanatory virtue of current global phenomena. Such an observation explains why the debates today focus on the modalities for the advent of a new global economic and political governance. Africa cannot remain silent and inactivities. It must imperatively throw itself into the battle to carve out its own place in the configuration currently being designed. It is not easy. It will require ingenuity, creativity, method, and courage. More generally, this will require real redemption for an awakening of the consciousness and conscience of the soul of Pan-Africanism, that of our awareness of our Africanity, that of the pride of our Africanity, that of the commitment to our Africanity, that of the rejection of our depersonalization and our nihilistic servility of our identity and our being. This is what African youth are calling for us to do. They are the majority in all our states and are becoming increasingly demanding. Their voices are resonating louder and louder thanks to the new forms of communication that amplify all expressions. African youth are constantly challenging us and putting us on trial for being out of step with their aspirations, which are that of an Africa that is open to itself, united, sovereign in its policies and choices, standing and interdependent. This solidarity has always been our lifeline in the fight against colonialism and apartheid and the completion of our independence. We have just paid tribute to the memory of a great combatant, Sam Nujoma. This should bring something and click something in our minds. Our solidarity should galvanize our consciences, our wills and our intelligence to lead us to a more promising common destiny. There are no other new path for our future than to listen and to give substance to the aspirations of our youth, our fellow citizens and our diaspora. Mr. Chairman, Excellencies, ladies and gentlemen, I am leaving my office definitively in a few days. I confess that I feel overwhelmed by a sweet feeling of freedom that allows me to say a few words from the bottom of my heart. The first is a word of deep gratitude to Your Excellencies for the trust that you have placed in me by electing me for 2 successive terms as the chairperson of the African Union Commission. You must rest assured that I have measured and I continue to measure all the dimensions of this trust and the heavy weight of subsequent gratitude and acknowledgement. The second word concerns the other one and me. In the other one, I'm thinking of our partners, especially those who have offered a sincere friendship and mutually beneficial cooperation. I want to thank them all and express our gratitude. I am also thinking of you present here, those who have left us also for different reasons. You have realized good and great things, and above all, as far as possible, respected a certain ethic and a line of conduct that we have believed to be consistent with our principles. Please accept my full gratitude. The members of the African Union Commission are the men and women that have worked very often in the shadows with diligence, dedication, discipline, and talent. I would like to pay tribute to them, the tribute that they deserve. The third word relates to my own limitations. I wanted so much to do quickly and better during the 2 terms that you entrusted to me. I know that I have not done everything. Perhaps I underestimated the burden of the task and the weight of the constraints. I know that I may have made mistakes. I should not say perhaps, but I should say certainly I've made mistakes. Maybe here and there I have weakened and made mistakes and missed opportunities to do better. I would like to apologize and ask forgiveness if my shortcomings have caused any individual or collective harm. The fourth word relates to my feelings at the moment. I am happy to regain my freedom, but I know that we'll also have the nostalgia of the places, the women and men whom I have known. Amasaganalo. Maybe we'll have time to write the history of all this tangle of feelings and sensations. Finally, my fifth word is that of my oath to continue to think of Africa, to serve Africa, to dream for its youth for whom we have not done enough and for whom we must do a lot, because after all, it is they who count today and more so tomorrow. A final word to you, Mr. President, Chairperson, and Mr. President, dear brother Sheikh Al-Ghazwani, to tell you how much I appreciated your close relation throughout your mandate. You have been a master of wisdom, civic-mindedness, and loftiness, inspiring in all respects. To you, Mr. President, and dear brother Joao Lorenzo, and I would like to stress that the quiet strength that you symbolize reassures me about a chairmanship of seriousness and substance. May you both in particular, and all of us, have an active thought for the great prisoner of the Sahel, President Mohamed Bazoum, whose interminable detention
Thank you, Your Excellency. Thank you for your statement. Thank you for your unwavering commitment. Thank you for dedication towards Africa's peace, development, and unity. Thank you very much. I will now have the honor to invite His Excellency Antonio Guterres, Secretary General of the United Nations, to deliver his statement. Your Excellency.
Monsieur le Président de l'Union africaine,
The chairperson,
all protocol observed. President Mohamed Ould Ghazouani, thank you for your leadership in the outstanding exercise of your mandate. Presidente João Lourenço,
President John Lorenzo, I commend you and I look forward for the opportunity to work with you as a new chair of the Union.
special expression of gratitude to the chairperson of the African Union Commission, Moussa Faki, with the United Nations. Cher Moussa,
dear Moussa, working with you was a privilege, a pleasure, and an honor.
Excellencies, the partnership between the African Union and the United Nations has never been stronger. Together, we see an Africa booming with hope and possibility. You have a booming, enterprising population, including the largest number of young people in the world. The African continental free trade is poised to turbocharge the region's economy, and calls to address the legacies of colonialism and slavery are growing louder, as reflected in your theme this year, and as reflected in the leadership of so many passionate voices for the liberation of Africa, such as the great Dr. Sam Nujoma of Namibia, whose life we celebrate and whose loss we mourn. of two colossal and compounded injustices. First, the profound impact of colonialism and the transatlantic slave trade. The roots stretch back centuries, and the bitter fruit continues to affect Africans and people of African descent to this day. Decolonization alone in itself was not a panacea. Political independence did not free countries from structures based on exploitation and decades of economic, social, underinvestment. It is high time for reparatory justice frameworks to be put in place. Second, Africa was under colonial domination when today's multilateral system was created, and that injustice endures. Look no further than the United Nations Security Council. There is no excuse that Africa still lacks permanent representation in the 21st century. I will keep working with the African Union and all member states to ensure the representation Africa needs and the justice you deserve, including with 2 permanent members of the Security Council. And we will keep pressing together for an international financial architecture that is no longer outdated, dysfunctional, and unfair. Correcting age-old injustices is essential to address here and now challenges. And the good news is that we have many of the solutions we need. Last year, you helped drive that effort at the United Nations with the Pact for the Future. And I thank Africa for its support that was vital to approve the Pact. Our task now is to make those commitments a reality. South Africa's G20 chairmanship could not come at a better time. Let me point to 4 areas for action. First, we must push for peace, security, and alleviating appalling levels of human suffering. Sudan is being torn apart before our eyes and is now home to the world's largest displacement crisis and famine. As we near the holy months of Ramadan, it is time for an immediate cessation of hostilities. And the international community must come together to stop the flow of weapons and the bankrolling of bloodshed. In the Democratic Republic of the Congolese people have been suffering yet again from a brutal cycle of violence. And the fighting that is raging in South Kivu as a result of the continuation of the M23 offensive threatens to push the entire region over the precipice. Regional escalation must be avoided at all costs. There is no military solution. The deadlock must end, the dialogue must begin, and the sovereignty and territorial integrity of the DRC must be respected. The conclusions of the recent joint EAC-SADC summit offer a way forward, with a renewed call for an immediate ceasefire and new momentum for regional efforts based on the Luanda and Nairobi processes. Now is the time for swift implementation. And you can count on the continued support of the United Nations, including MONUSCO. In the Sahel, the clear and present threat of terrorism is undermining peace, security, and sustainable development. And in Somalia, we are urging predictable funding for the African Union support and stabilization mission, and I hope that our voice will be heard by the Security Council. And as we gather here in Africa, I know all our minds are also very much on Gaza. A resumption of hostilities must be avoided at all costs. The Palestinian people have suffered too much. I welcome efforts by the parties to abide by the ceasefire agreement and urge action for a permanent ceasefire and the release of all hostages. Peace is possible in the Middle East, and that starts with tangible, irreversible, and permanent progress towards the two-state solution, Israel and Palestine, living side by side in peace and security. Excellencies, on all fronts, we stand shoulder to shoulder with the African Union to advance security, stability, human rights, and the rule of law. Excellencies, second, we must keep working together to deliver the AU 2063 agenda and the 2030 agenda for sustainable development and drive action on finance. African countries pay up to 8 times more to borrow than developed countries, and 20 are in or at risk of debt distress. The Pact for the Future supports an international financial architecture reform to reflect today's economy, ensuring fair representation and urging effective action on debt relief. And I will stand with Africa as a matter of justice and to right the historic wrongs. Excellencies, third, the climate crisis. Climate disasters are tearing across Africa. At the same time, the renewables revolution is unstoppable, and Africa is poised to become a global clean energy powerhouse. Yet, today, Africa receives just 2% of global renewables investment. Realizing Africa's potential requires access to affordable finance, including by implementing the COP29 finance decision fully and on time, and supporting development of a roadmap to realize $1.3 trillion a year. Excellencies, Africa has contributed little to the climate crisis, yet is paying the price with record droughts, floods, and heat. Climate justice requires a massive investment in adaptation, with the international community bearing an enormous responsibility. Developed countries must double adaptation finance, and countries must significantly boost the loss and damage fund. Allow me a note. When the Loss and Damage Fund was created, the pledging conference that took place has allowed for an amount that is equivalent at the highest contract for a basketball player in the United States. It is absolutely necessary to make the Loss and Damage Fund an effective instrument to support developing countries in adaptation. And we also need justice when it comes to your abundant critical minerals. Too often, your countries are plundered, bound to the bottom of value chains as others grow rich on your resources. The work of the United Nations panel on critical energy transition minerals is designed to help embed justice, sustainability, and human rights across the value chain. Africa's minerals must benefit Africa's people.
Excellencies, finally, we need to act on the new technologies, including artificial intelligence. Almost 2/3 of all Africans have no reliable internet access. We have a historic responsibility to ensure AI benefits humanity, not just a privilege for few. The Global Digital Pact shares the ambitions of the African Digital Compact: universal connectivity, capacity building, and responsible AI governance. I will African Union stand united in our determination to deliver justice for your continent, leaving no one behind.